the Virgin Mary or the double church, and you can see why. There's already a bunch out this way, and look how long that church is. See the big baptismal font? Can you imagine this church in its glory days? Can you imagine how big it was and filled with people at the Easter Vigil? All the people in Ephesus who eventually converted to the faith, and Christianity became the legal religion of the empire, and they filled this place on Easter Vigil. Can you just imagine all the people getting baptized there in that baptismal font? See, they didn't always practice immersion baptism. See, no way you can immerse people in that. But that was sprinkling or dunking, whatever, any way that you have the water works. But what happened here, the reason that it's called the Church of the Virgin Mary is because back in those days, they only named churches after people who had been in that city, which confirms that St. Mary, Mary the Blessed Virgin, had been in Ephesus, and the council members in 431, the Third Ecumenical Council, gathered here in Ephesus because they were going to debate the issues of Mary. That's why they chose Ephesus. They could have done it in Constantinople or in Nicaea, Iznik of today, where the other councils were. They came all the way down here because they specifically chose this church to be where Mary had lived in Ephesus. 431, the Third Ecumenical Council, there was a man named Nestorius. He was the Patriarch of Constantinople. And he said that you can call Mary the Theokristos, the mother of Christ. You could not call her the mother of God. This was a very important distinction. Is she the mother of Christ? Yes. But if you say she's only the mother of Christ and you cannot call her the mother of God, then that's heresy. As a Baptist, I could not say Mary was the mother of God. Even to this day, my mother will just freeze if I say that. Mary is the mother of Jesus. But the church here had a big debate, even a slugfest. Cyril of Alexandria was here. Nestorius of Constantinople was here. Cyril of Alexandria represented Rome and the true teaching of the church about Mary and who Christ was. Nestorius had this view, a different view of Jesus and a different view of Mary. And the debate was quite rigorous because before Cyril even got here, Nestorius excommunicated him. When Cyril came, he excommunicated Nestorius. It was really a rabble-rouser. The Vatican today may have its problems, but you have no idea how some of these councils were, where they were punching each other. But I like it when men get aggressive and have a passion for the truth. So, I don't want to give Father Larry any more ideas. I just have to say, I only kid people I like, by the way. I don't kid with people I don't like. I only kid with people I know can take it and who I like. That's just so he knows I'm not jabbing him. So here they had this council. And the fact is that the right side won. Whenever ecumenical council makes a decision and the decree, it's an infallible decision of the church. And they decreed that Mary is the Theotokos, was the Greek word. She is the bearer, the carrier of God. Tokos means carrier or bearer. Theo means God. We say it in English as the mother of God. And that was very important because that became the litmus test whether you were Orthodox or not. The doctrines about Mary are not so much about Mary. Only secondarily are they about Mary. The doctrines of Mary are primarily about her son and helping to define who he is. In my movie, Mary, Mother of God, I'm in a moat in Jerusalem around a castle. And I'm down in the moat and I say the doctrines of Mary are like the moat around a castle. In order to get at the king, you have to first negotiate through the moat. And then you have to climb the walls to get the king. Mary is the defense of her son. When you say Mary is the mother of God, you're making two statements about who Jesus is more than about who Mary is. To say that Mary is the mother of God means what? That Jesus is a divine person. Doesn't mean she's the mother of the Trinity. Yes, Mary was everlasting. She has been from before time, and she gave birth to the Trinity. This is not what the Catholic Church is saying. Jesus, when he came, he has two natures. What are they? Divine and human. How many persons does he have? One person. Is it a human or a divine person? He's a divine person. Jesus is a divine person with two natures, human and divine. So when you say that Mary is the mother of God, Mary is a human girl. She was only 15, 16 years old. 100% human being. She's not angel. She's not divine. She's a girl, human girl. And if she is the mother, then her son is human. But if she's the mother of God, that means he's also God. So now you have the problem. How can he be God and man? Because God came down and that one divine person took on a human body. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And verse 14 of John 1, and the Word became flesh and tabernacled. You know the Greek word there, as he tabernacled or set up his tent among us. That's the word. We say he became flesh. But the Greek word is tabernacled. In other words, this divine person left heaven and he clothed himself with humanity like a tent with a body. And he became a man. So Mary is the mother of God. When you say Mary is the mother of God, you're making two theological statements, that Jesus is both divine and human. That's what the whole thing is about. Mary as the Queen of Heaven. They would have the same feeling here. You know, for me, I didn't understand Mary's assumption in the Queen of Heaven until I understood the Old Testament. The Catholic Church could say all they wanted about Mary's the Queen of Heaven, but unless I could find it in the Bible in my conversion process, I wasn't going to buy it. Everything I had to prove that it was at least in Scripture, even if it wasn't chapter and verse, at least it was there. And when I understood typology and the Old Testament, all of that makes sense to me about Mary, because in the Old Testament, the kings of Israel always had a queen, but the queen was never their wife. The queen was always their mother. And when Solomon took his throne in Jerusalem, the first thing that happened when he took his throne is his mother entered the throne room. When I give the talk on Mary in England, they know exactly where I'm going with this, because I say to them, what would happen if somebody would just walk into the throne room of Queen Elizabeth, even if they're a relative? They just said it wouldn't happen. They'd be arrested, executed. You don't walk into the Queen's throne room without being invited. Into the throne room of Solomon walks his mother Bathsheba. What does Solomon do? He gets up off his one throne in the front of the throne room. He gets off his throne. He bows. The Greek word is prostrated himself in front of his mother. And then he stood up, sat back in his throne, and he had another throne established at his right hand. So no longer one throne in the throne room. There's now two thrones. And his mother sits there, and guess what she does? Intercedes for the people. Ding, 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 ding. Ring any bells?
Yeah.
If Solomon is the greatest of all the kings of Israel until he made a stupid mistake, and he brought his mother and raised her up, when Jesus, who is called the Son of David, that's a messianic title. Remember the blind Bartimaeus, Jesus, Son of David, that's a messianic title. When the Son of David, who is the new Solomon, the greater than Solomon, becomes king, what do you think he does with his mother? Anything less than Solomon would have done? This made it perfectly understandable for me that, of course, Mary would have to be assumed into heaven and seated at Jesus' right hand, because kings of Israel do what the kings of Israel do. And what do the kings of Israel do? They appoint their mothers as the queen. Read through the Old Testament. Everywhere where there's a mention of the new king, it always names his mother. She's called the Geburah, the great lady, the queen mother. And she's there and has a position of great power in the kingdom, especially when her son is young. 10 or 12-year-old son inherits the kingdom, and his mother is there. Guess who's really running the kingdom until her son grows up? And then when he grows up, how is he ruling the kingdom? With the advice and example of his mother. So why do we say Mary's the Queen of Heaven, assumed into heaven? It makes total biblical sense. Of course you have to. The Catholic Church was right all along, even though I never believed it at first. But everything I found that the Catholic Church teaches is not maybe explicitly in Scripture, but it's certainly there implicitly, and it's all richly biblical. You read the Catechism and count how many Bible verses it's quoting from the Scriptures, and the fathers of the Church and the guys who are back here. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a little introduction to this place, the Third Ecumenical Council, 431, and Mary is the Theotokos, the Mother of God. And I'm not a heretic because I'm glad to say it now.